Welcome back to Radio Entrepreneurs. I'm Jonathan Freedman, and our next guest up, who is actually a wonderful reporter for Radio Entrepreneurs, who often needs no introduction, but we will nonetheless. Phil Sharkey of the Higher Authority. Always great to see you.
Great, Jonathan. Thank you so much. It's great to be here, and I look forward to talking today. How are you doing?
Excellent, thank you. You're always bringing us wonderful news in the world of screening and hiring. And since this is such a challenging market for a lot of employers, often giving them great advice in terms of how to make sure they get the right people on board. Tell us a little bit about why the Higher Authority. What are you guys providing to people in the marketplace and helping employers achieve?
Thank you, Jonathan. I appreciate that lead in. And again, we are seeing approximately 40% of the background checks we conduct turn out fraudulent. Was previously 30%. 40% is a huge number. Again, these are people that we're not sneaking in and grabbing. These are people that know a background check is going to be conducted. But I really want to focus today on our services, as I've worked in the past for these larger screening companies and such. And I think there is a huge difference to our profile, our platform, where we want to focus on a quick, diligent, detailed background report, but just as important is ease of services. Jonathan, I'm dealing with HR directors, HR generalists, HR managers, office managers, business owners. They don't have a lot of time to be bogged down in my work. And it's sort of, I'm going to probably anger some of my screening cohorts and open the doors to how the process goes. But a lot of these larger companies really have such a volume of work that your importance really falls down. You're just a number. And for us, we do conduct approximately 500 to 700 backgrounds a month. It was 1,000 before COVID. And in that number, we can really offer the specialized service and make it easier for our clients to use our services.
So let me ask you this, Phil. Is it very much that sometimes when you're dealing with the large national players, it tends to be a little bit more of a cookie cutter approach? You know, it's a canned sort of approach. You can't alter it. But in talking to a company like yours, if I have specific needs or specific interests or specific information I'm looking to uncover, you guys will tailor. You will do things a lot more oriented towards the particular situation and applicant pool.
Yeah, Jonathan, exactly. Three things I see is, first of all, senior level people at my firm handle your work. It's all senior level investigators. At the large firms, again, you're dealing with the huge moving parts, a lot of employees, and trust me, they're very transient. They move on, as I did myself one day. So it's a level of professionalism. And the second is that we have a system. Every background check needs a signed release and authorization from the individual. You cannot skirt that. No screening company can. What I see in other firms is they have a portal or a database system, and they sell that so much, Jonathan. They promise you the world, they make it seem outstanding, but they cause more work for you. You have to enter in the information. If you spell the name wrong, if it's Kaplansky and you misspell that, that's going to be on you. I've always taken it as that's our job. And these portal systems that they enter into deputize you. They make you another employee of the company. And for us, again, you're paying quite a fee, a service fee. That's our job. And we have that back and forth, as you mentioned in your question, the conversation, and we set the expectations with the clients initially. And then after report, that follow-up. I'm always available. Other senior members are available. I often spend 30 minutes on the phone talking to the results that are very important for a client, because a background check's information and how to utilize that information is really key. And sometimes information comes back and the client really needs to clarify what's going on here. Phil, was that a conviction? What does nolo contendere mean out of Rhode Island? How can I act on it? And that's really our expertise, to extract information, but also to be available to go over the results with people.
That's very interesting you point that out, because I imagine, again, if you're dealing with a large national company that's screening perhaps hundreds of people a day, that it is very much here's your report, go with God, so to speak, best of luck, as opposed to really understanding and digging in and finding out, what are important details, what are not. Because I think, as we've talked about in prior segments, just because there's a piece of information there, it might not always, it might not be a tip of an iceberg. And so it needs some interpretation and really understanding what's behind it. Is this something of note, given the particular position the person's applying to? What do I do with the information?
So true. And it's something I've been doing a long time. We've been in business here for 20 plus years. So I know all the ins and outs. And it's simply put, we are a large company as well. We do screening coast to coast as well as internationally. The difference is how the information is submitted to us. These portal systems, they'll talk about security, but they often get cracked and breached as well. We have dedicated computers that comes in by encrypted email. Everything is very secure here. And then the turnaround time. We give a 3-day turnaround time. These portal systems, they say, you can go in, Jonathan, check on your work. How's it going you sent it on Monday, now it's Wednesday. What good is checking on your work and just see that it's pending compared to our style where you get it back in 3 days and then we can talk about the results, discuss anything compared to waiting. I've had some of the larger companies, my clients tell me they're waiting 7, 10 days, 14 days. That's too long for a background report. You lose good people, you have a position to fill, and for you to be following up and checking on your work, that's unacceptable. You need to get the results as soon as possible. And 3 days is a time frame that we go by.
Phil, since you opened the door on this one, I'm going to ask the question. What sort of expectation should your clients have in terms of their time commitment? Not obviously over the 3-day period, but you talked about the setup, you talked about the involvement, talked about time for a debrief. What does it look like from the client's perspective in terms of effort and time? Is it a half an hour up front, half an hour on the back end, or what should the expectation be over those 3 or 6 days or however long the whole process will take them in a particular screening?
Yeah, John, that's a great question. To submit the information to me, it should be harmless. It should be minutes. They should not have to take a lot of time. All we need is that signed release. Again, we're a more detailed company of full background investigations. We often need the application and resume. That's sort of my roadmap. That gives me the education and employment. Then your job is done. The next time we talk will be in 3 days when the background report comes back. Everything's fine, outstanding. If there are issues, we notate it, and that client often calls and says, I have questions. Why is there no degree? They claim there's a degree. What can we do? We often also now speak with the applicants. Many of our clients do drug screening, and we set that up, and there's a back and forth with the applicant. Many employers, especially in the pharmaceutical field, they'll say they worked at ABC company, but they didn't. They were placed from another company, much like I know you have Mark on today from legal staffing. That's where you need to go to get the actual records, and they don't provide that. So sometimes we can cut down on your involvement and go right to the applicant and say, hey, listen, you were working at Pfizer, but that was not your employer. Who placed you there? That's what I need to help you to finish your background report. So there's that expertise as to how we're going to go best about extracting the information to make it as fast as possible.
And do you find over the 20 years or 20 plus years that you've been at the higher authority or even longer in the industry that candidates tend to be more or less resistant to hearing from a company like yours today?
That's a great question, Jonathan. I think much less resistant today. There was a time when there was really standoff, back off. Who are you, big brother? What are you doing? Where now I think most of the professionals understand what's going on, that I actually try to turn and say, help me help you, like the line from that movie where I can't verify your employment unless you tell me where you actually worked and who your employer was. So they understand, most of the professionals with more involvement. We still get some pushback. And of course, when negative information surfaces, they have entitled to a copy of their background report, and they often speak with me. And what I do is try to help them for the future and say, listen, sir or ma'am, this is going to show again, you have this record, you need to be upfront about it. You can overcome it. It's your background. And here's what you need to do to understand it's going to surface every time and be prepared.
Yeah, I'd imagine from a candidate's perspective, looking at it the way you've just described it, you're actually, a guy that can help them to tell their story, whether it's in this particular instance or moving forward. So in a lot of respects, even though they may not be paying for it, they may be benefiting more so in terms of call it career advice.
It's almost like, job coaching. I've had some people actually call and say, can you do a background check on me for me? As I'm going to be going to more and more jobs, and I want to know what's going to serve. I always tell people, there's no reason I should know more about you than you, Jonathan. If I do your background check and people go to me, wow, I didn't know that. It's like, you should know that if this is you, it's your background. And again, unfortunately, it's not usually those people that will go back and forth. It's the 30 to 40% of people who just fraudulently are not at all who they claim to be. And those are the ones that draw the huge red flags.
Phil, I'm not going to ask you to do it. I don't even want to find out about my past. I remember more. I forget more of it than I remember. It's a good thing.
I've had so many people call like, what do you mean my license is suspended? I just moved. I'm like, well, there you go. You had a speeding violation. You didn't pay. It's very innocuous. It's not big. But right now, do you know you're driving out with a suspended license? And if you get pulled over today, big stuff's going to happen. And they're like, I didn't even know.
Right. And that can give them the impetus to really go and rectify those relatively benign situations and clean up the record, so to speak.
Absolutely. And again, the process is so easy. And I see a lot of these large companies, not to pick on them, but they're doing a lot of different things. They're doing payroll for, they're sometimes involved in many working pieces. We just do background screening. That's what we feel is our expertise. And whether it's here in California, Texas, the game doesn't change for what we do, just the playing field. And the clients seem to appreciate that approach. You always get a person when you call here. I had a client once in the convenience store chain, large client in the Massachusetts area. He said, you know what I like best about you guys, Phil? And of course, I thought it'd be me or a process. He's like, no, not at all. He said that a person answers the phone when I call. Little things, little details to make it easy as possible, ease of service.
Absolutely. And it sounds like you and the higher authority are all about to making this as painless as possible for your clients and for the applicants as well, and getting closure and getting people hired. That's really what it's all about. So helping out business, helping out the individuals, the higher authority is what you guys are all about. Phil Sharkey, it's always a pleasure to have you on Radio Entrepreneurs. If people want to reach out to you, talk more about the process, I wonder if you've ever had a candidate that, as you alluded to, call you up and say, Phil, can you do a background check on me? And I'm not applying for anything, but as you said, I want to make sure what's the skeletons are out there. Another opportunity to create some work for you, I guess.
You sure have, Jonathan. I've had people call as well. Like I might list, you might have a supervisor, or list a reference, and I'll talk to the reference. And before they call me back, they'll call you up, Jonathan. Who's this guy? What's this higher authority? What is going on? And that person will end up calling me, and I'll have to remind them, have you applied for a job recently? At ABC companies, like, oh yeah, I'm acting on their behalf, and you listed, this person as a reference. That's why I was calling them. They're like, oh, I totally understand. But as far as reaching us, Jonathan, very easy. That the number 508-230-5901. On the web, we're at www.higheroff.com, short for higher authority. And my email is psharkey, my name @higheroff.com.
Excellent. Always a pleasure to have you on Radio Entrepreneurs. Phil Sharkey of the Higher Authority, and we'll be right back with another segment on Radio Entrepreneurs.